Straight from the heart of East Tennessee, this is 10 News at 5.
And welcome back to 10 News at 5. I'm Beth Haynes. After last week's landmark decision in the Apple-Samsung patent case, now Apple wants some of Samsung's products off the market. On Friday, a federal jury found Samsung infringed on Apple's patents to create the product's willfully copying technology. The jury also awarded Apple about $1 billion. Now this verdict came very quickly, and last week, we talked with our tech expert, Dan Thompson from Claris Networks, about the potential impact of the case. We both joked that neither one of us envied the juror's task. Now we want to talk in depth about this verdict. So glad that you're with us.
Yeah.
And let's start with your reaction.
I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was not expecting the verdict to go this way or just as dramatically as it did. They really nailed Samsung on quite a few things, and I was legitimately shocked.
To say it's a tremendous win for Apple, an understatement. Talk about what this means right now for the company.
So right off the bat, Apple came after Samsung and said, all right, now that the verdict has gone in our favor, we want these eight devices pulled from shelves. They handed that over to the judge. He's yet to make a decision on that. They already had an injunction against the 10.1-inch tablet, so it is supposed to be off the shelves today.
Okay.
They also handed down a little under $1.1 billion in damages that Samsung now has to pay. So a pretty good chunk of change. What analysts are saying is that represents about 1.25% of Samsung's yearly revenue.
Wow.
So it's a big number to you and I, and apparently the jurors looked at it and said it's big enough that it's going to hurt, but it's not unreasonable for a fine for this great of an injunction that they've done.
All right, let's talk about this. If you're a customer, you've got one of these phones, one of these tablets, how is this going to impact you if it's now pulled from the market shelves?
Well, so that's a great question, and what people need to understand is if you have those phones today, it doesn't affect you at all. So if you've already made the purchase, you're fine. An interesting side effect to all this, as soon as the verdict was handed down and Apple handed that list of phones, several of the online retail shops where you can sell used gear, the Samsung gear shot out the roof because people were trying to get rid of it quickly because they were afraid that something, maybe tomorrow their phone's not going to work anymore, and that's not founded at all. Your phone will still work. There is some question about the resale value of these phones over time, because if they're not allowed on the market, there's some question about whether the carriers will continue to support them. I don't think we'll see a problem there because these phones generally have a short life cycle anyway, and after a year or two, you really can't get much money out of them anyway. So I don't see it as a concern. If you have one, don't worry about it.
We mentioned that Google might be in trouble with this too. How did the verdict impact Google?
Yeah, so with Google specifically, there are a couple of icons that they're going to have to rework because they have that Apple look to them with the square with the rounded edges. There are some motion sensitive things like how you use your fingers on the screen that they may have to retool, and I'm thinking that they'll wait until Apple sues them directly to go after that. Samsung, on the other hand, they need to do some redesigns in their UI, which is basically their user interface that sits on top of Google's. They'll need to redesign several of their things, but again, if you have the operating system already, you don't need to worry about it.
We've got about a minute left, so we've got to talk about the controversy surrounding this quick verdict. The foreman, a patent owner himself. Talk about this new revelation and how it could work in Samsung's favor.
This is the juicy part of the story, without a doubt. What happened was, after the trial was over, we learned that the jury foreman actually holds technology patents, like you said. These patents could potentially be used in cell phone technology, but we don't really know. What we do know, though, is that he used his knowledge in the decision-making process for the jury, and if you listen to what some of the other jurors said, it sounds like maybe he steered some thinking because they kind of looked to him as sort of an ad hoc expert. Now, there's a lot of maybes in all that, so we'll just have to see how the courts kind of fill that out. The big question, though, is did he properly disclose this during jury selection? And if he didn't, man, Samsung has got a killer case right there all over. And then even if he did, there are plenty of other loopholes that Samsung could come in and say, hey, we didn't get a fair trial. This is an easy appeal process. So this is going to be fun to watch. That's the fun part to me.
Basically what he's saying is this is to be continued.
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
Sure. Our conversation,
far from over.
maybe next week. All right. Thank you, Dan. We appreciate your expertise as always.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up next, rising prices at the pump with gas jumping 7 cents overnight. We'll talk about Isaac's impact on the nation's oil companies and when we could possibly see some relief. Plus, the